Good morning, everyone. This is Landon with JourneyTEAM. Appreciate you all joining us. We're excited to have you here. I'm sure all of you lost sleep last night in excitement, so appreciate you all joining us. I will be kicking this off for us, and our friends Travis Smith and Colby Beck here on our team will be the main presenters going through the exciting Power Apps presentation for us. So looking forward to that. I know we have a lot of new attendees as well as a ton of our existing clients, so thank you to both being here. I'm just going to briefly go through a little bit about who JourneyTEAM is. I'm sure you're all wondering about us and what we do. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that, but just so you guys have an idea, we are a Microsoft consulting firm. Really everything across the Microsoft stack, we have proficiencies and teams supporting those different products. We're about 110 employees and feels like it adds a new one just about every day. So growing very, very rapidly, 350 plus active customers that we've been working with over the past 12 months, but we've been doing this for the past 28 years. So a lot of breadth and a lot of knowledge on this team, and we absolutely love what we do. And a lot of our customers feel the same way, and a lot of referenceable and excited customers that we worked with, and appreciate you guys all working with us. These are our fancy awards that we've won. Not going to spend a ton of time on those. Those are just pointing out that we received a few awards for what we've done, and we take pride in that and appreciate those. So without further ado, I'm going to turn time over to Travis to kick things off and get diving into what you guys came to join. So Travis, it's all yours, my friend.
All right, thanks, Landon. Just a little intro to myself. I've been with JourneyTEAM for the past 4 months now, and I was fortunate enough to be a customer of JourneyTEAM for the past year and a half before that. So I've been able to work a lot on both sides and kind of see both sides of the fence, and have really enjoyed it. So, all right. Well, today we're going to talk about Power Apps and kind of the low code, no code revolution that it's bringing on. So a little bit of background before that, we're going to talk about some of the transformations that we've seen over the last year or two, especially since COVID hit, that have really garnered the need for this low code, no code revolution. So we know that transforming your businesses can be challenging. We saw this within the last year with COVID, where workforces were having to work from home. We were needing to come up with pretty rapid solutions to kind of combat that. And customizing apps or building custom apps was something typically in the past that would take a really, really long time, and we needed that like right now after that hit. So there's a few things that kind of brought issues with building custom apps. The first thing was time to market. Traditionally, in a standard software development lifecycle, you had time and resource constraints, budget constraints. Some of the processes could have been clunky, back in the day when we were faxing forms for approvals and emailing them back and forth, and it was taking forever to get through that process. So that was a big hurdle that really hindered the application development process. When it comes to the business goals and the IT alignment, there can also be some constraints there. Having worked in IT for a long time, that was something that I definitely saw, where the business goals and the IT understanding of those goals never quite married up one-to-one. And so getting that big picture and getting everybody on the same page was one of the bigger hurdles that we have to overcome when it comes to the business goals and the IT strategic alignments. The lack of insights. There is a big push for data-driven decision making in businesses now, and previously with custom application building, it was really hard to integrate into some of the BI systems or the business intelligence systems, and there really wasn't a good way of tracking it or measuring performance on the application. You'd have to build that all manually into the application. The cost of owning the applications on your side in the past with legacy applications was typically pretty expensive, especially when it came to your capital expenditure. With legacy systems, you had to maintain the logical infrastructure, whether it's, you know, a group of servers, your virtual infrastructure. You had to maintain all of the security and compliance when it came to access to the system, patching for new system updates, and leveraging technologies that were incoming, and you'd have to update your applications and kind of keep it new and abreast. So those are some of the bigger challenges that we've had when it came to custom application development and kind of getting that into your production market. Now, the low-code application platforms are really filling these application gaps and these time to market gaps. And the one specifically that we're going to be talking about today is part of the Microsoft Power Platform, and it is branded Microsoft Power Apps. You're going to hear that code name quite a bit when it comes to the Power Platform. Everything's power this or power that, and it makes it easy to kind of understand where they're going and their marketing approach behind it. Now, when it comes to the Power Platform, there's a few key groups of technologies that kind of encompass the overall platform. Power BI being the more data wrangling, the data decision and reporting portion of the Power Platform. Power Apps is going to be how you surface that data. It's going to be how you interact with that data, how you gather that data. And it's a really robust technology that you can build custom UIs and build them very, very quickly. And not only that, it's integrated with all the other portions of the Power Platform, including Power Automate, where Power Automate is more of the orchestration behind the data. It helps you move data around. It's got hundreds of connectors, so it connects to multiple systems right out of the box. You're not having to build all these custom APIs. You're not having to do any of that custom authentication or any of that. It's all built into the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. So really, as long as you have your tenant stood up, you've got your M365 stood up, it's all integrated and you can just start using it. Now, the one low-code platform that it spans, you can see it starts kind of at the top with your Office 365 platform and your Azure platform. And then under that is the components of the Power Platform. We talked about Power BI and the analytics portion. Power Apps is going to be your application development portion. Power Automate is going to be your automation component. And then Power Virtual Agents is a newer component of the Power Platform that encompasses chatbots and things like that, where if you need to interact with like customer support and things like that. Now, there are three components that we're going to talk about when it comes to kind of the underlying data with Power Apps. So Dataverse is the underlying data architecture for the Power Platform. It's a system of tables and databases that are out of the box that you can utilize, and it spans multiple applications in your Microsoft 365 tenant. Now, along with that comes the data connectors. Like I'd said before, there are hundreds of connectors that you can connect to right out of the box, whether it's your SharePoint system, other systems that are outside of this, like SAP, you've got Excel, you've got all the kind of connectors that you would normally use to wrangle your data in and bring it into an application. And you've also got a newer portion of it called the AI Builder. So if you're doing some sort of machine learning models or anything behind that, where you're taking your data and you're formulating it, you can actually build that into your applications via Power Apps. So it's a lot of productivity built into one suite, and it kind of just makes that one-stop shop for your application building needs. All right. So this is kind of a good visual of the integration behind the three that you'll be using mostly when you're building applications in Power Apps. So it starts kind of at that Power App level. You've got the visuals to your customers. You're building a nice app, whether it's mobile or desktop. You're taking that data, you're formulating it in Power BI, you're building reports on top of it. And then with your automation, you can either automate responses based off that data, you can have it take action based off of other actions, and it's really enabling your users with this integration to just seamlessly build applications without that time to market need where you're taking months of regression cycles, you're having to go through testing and gathering information. It just makes it very seamless so you can bring your apps to market much quicker. I remember when I first started, I think I took like a week or two to build one of my first apps. And then after that, like I would take a weekend, build an app, we'd test it on a Monday, and it'd be ready to go by a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So for me, I really saw the power in Power Apps where it just enabled me to build business solutions quicker and have the business involved in the whole process. Like, they didn't need to understand 7 different programming languages. They didn't need to understand the infrastructure behind it. They really just needed to understand their business need and help us surface it for them. Right. So we're going to talk about the different types of developers that Power Apps is geared toward. And honestly, it's geared towards everyone. You'll hear this keyword quite a bit when Microsoft or us, we talk about Power Platform development. It's this first group of developers called the citizen developers. And this is really just the everyday business analyst, a business user. If you've got a business need, this is going to be very, very simple and easy for you. If you've got even just a little bit of Excel knowledge, like that is going to be bounds above where most people start. So the citizen developers are really just, we want to enable everybody in our organization to be able to provide input and develop their own solutions. Your IT developers are going to be, again, for your folks in IT, where they can kind of take that and go one step further, whether they're integrating it with current systems, they're adding some custom architecture to it, and they can kind of govern the entire platform. There's a big component behind the Power Apps and governance in enabling your users to build applications, and the IT department can have some oversight built into the Power Platform to do that. Now, this last section is going to be your pro developers. So there are portions of Power Apps that you can actually extend to your pro developers, and it's called the Power Platform Component Framework, where they can actually take the code behind it and they can alter the code. They can build their own custom portions of the application. They could add their own custom visuals and things like that. So not only is it very easy for your citizen and your IT developers to get in and start creating applications very quickly, if there is a need that can't be found out of the box, you could go to a pro developer on your team or your company, and they can build that extension for Power Apps in the Power Platform. So it's very, very customizable. It's very friendly for every portion of your organization and every different type of developer that you have. So it's very accessible. It's not just geared, traditionally it was just geared towards your development team, your developers in your company. And that's one thing that really made it hard to get your applications to the market, is you'd have to go to that team, they'd have to have the time to develop that application, and they almost have to interpret what you would need. They have to go through and say, well, what do you want? And then build it. And you'd have to go back and forth and say, well, I really didn't want this. I need this feature. Whereas with Power Apps, you can work cohesively. You could be working on the same app at the same time and be building the application together. It's very, very powerful. All right. So we're going to be talking about Power Apps at the core here. I'm going to let my friend Colby Beck here kind of go over this a little bit, and he'll drive you through this and show some demos for you. So Colby, I will hand it over to you, buddy.
All right, thanks, Travis. Yeah, so like Travis says, I'll be covering Power Apps at the core. Travis has talked about most of these applications, these technologies, and I'll be showing you how they actually work, which is the fun stuff. So we have Canvas apps, which when I say Canvas, I want you to think of like a blank canvas that you would paint on, because when we create Canvas apps, we start from a blank screen, and then we add all of our different components, buttons, text boxes, and all of that as we want, as we desire. And we can build from there. Dataverse, as Travis said, is a database that lives in the cloud. And the nice thing about the Dataverse is you don't need to know how to write queries. You don't need to know SQL. You can just get in there, learn a little bit about it, and then you're away and ready to go to start building out your database. And then model-driven apps is just another type of Power App, and it's going to look a lot like kind of like an administrative app, which I'll show you an example of how admins can use a model-driven app to control all of the data and all the processes. And then I'll show you a little bit of flow and how we can actually have apps utilize Power Automate and automate some of our processes. So let me get my screen shared here. All right, Travis, can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, sir. We're good to go.
Alrighty, so I'm going to show you 2 Canvas apps that Travis and myself have built internally for JourneyTEAM that have helped us in a lot of our internal processes. So this first app we cleverly named JourneyTEAM, and what it does is, since we're a consultant company, we have to keep track of our time because we obviously bill clients, and we found that the process of recording our tasks and recording our time actually took up a lot of the consultant's time. and we needed a quicker and easier way to keep track of those tasks. So we created this app, and due to this app, we've saved about the opportunity cost of about $200,000 a year that we've been able to save us worth of our time, so that we can quickly record our time and our task for the day. So as you can see right here, I am recording this meeting right now, and you can see you've been in this meeting for 17 minutes. I hope it's been a good 17 minutes for you. And you can see all other tasks that have been assigned to myself that I can put time towards. And then so at the end of the day, I can submit those tasks, and it helps us with billing or just knowing where our time is going towards as consultants. And a really cool thing is all this data is actually stored in SQL. So you don't have to store your data in the Dataverse. With Canvas apps, there are about 300 different connectors or places where you can actually store your data. You can access Facebook, Instagram, SQL, Oracle, all sorts of different places where you can pull data from. You can update that data and access it all from within your Canvas app. So I'll show you another cool thing. Obviously, we have buttons. You can see here I can stop the timer. And you can add, once this loads, obviously you can add little cute loading logos. You can see we can filter our views for like what data we actually want to see. We can search that data. So if I type in book, you should only see book club, which is awesome. And then you can add little menu items. So every item you're seeing on this page right now, I had to manually add the functions to those objects, which is really cool. So this is one example of a Canvas app, and I'll show you another one that Travis has been working on. So this is also cleverly named Journey Notes, and this is an application that we do resell to clients. So if you're interested, it is a super awesome app. What it does is, especially nowadays with working remote, we're on calls constantly and trying to keep track of notes, who's keeping track of notes, making sure we send those notes out to people to follow up, and knowing where to send them can get awfully confusing. So so Travis built this app where you can see all of your meetings throughout the day that you have scheduled. And you see we're in this current meeting. I'm just going to click on this meeting. You can start the meeting. As you can see, you can build little pop-ups, little confirmations, and with this app, you're able to keep notes. You can go through and you can actually add drawings to your notes, save it. You can add pictures, upload images, you can attach files, and you can make audio recordings. And all of this, so when you get done with your meeting, at the end of your meeting, you can say finish and save, and you can actually export and send all of those notes to all the participants in the meeting. It just helps save time, and it also helps us maintain consistent with our follow-ups and knowing what tasks need to be done after a meeting. So this is 100% a Canvas app that started from scratch, and we're able to build it up to fulfill all these needs that we needed within JourneyTEAM. So those are two examples of Canvas apps. Let me show you how you create a Canvas app. So this is where you go to create apps, make.powerapps.com. And I'll just point out a few little features in here. Obviously here we have our apps. From here, this is where we can create apps. Over here where it says data, this is the Dataverse. So if I open up tables, and it'll load. So when you create a Dataverse, you have all these out-of-the-box tables that are created for you, like account. So we open up account. So when we created this Dataverse instance, all these columns are created by default. So we didn't have to go in and create a unique identifier for account or an account name or account number. All of those are very standard columns that any business would need. And so Microsoft created this product, so any business could create a Dataverse, and by default, they already have all these basic data points that majority of companies need. And so it's very quick and easy where you already have the columns ready to go. So you can see we can save information for addresses. We have all sorts of columns that are already created for us out of the box. So it saves us a lot of time. But since it's the Dataverse, we can add to it. You can add columns. I'm not going to add columns here, but you have the ability to add columns, custom columns, so you can change and add to all those custom tables, as well as create new tables. So Dataverse is super powerful, and like I said, you don't have to know how to write SQL queries to do so. You can just simply click a button that says new table, You can give it a name, and away you go. So let me go back up to apps, and I'm going to show you how to create a Canvas app. So if you hit Canvas app, it'll load up. So when you start, you can start with data. Let's say you already know you're going to be using SQL Server. You can start straight from there, and you can add in your connection, and your app will automatically populate with the data. I'm just going to say, let's start from blank. So you see with the options, we can say phone layout or tablet layout. So let's click phone layout. All right, so when I say you start from a blank canvas, this is what I mean. This is literally a blank canvas. If you go to the insert up here, you see we can add buttons. And then up here, we can actually add functions for what we want that button to do. So if we go over here, this is the editor for JourneyTEAM. So you can see I have all these objects over here and to the left. And so if I click on this process time button, you can actually see this is the function that I wrote to enable this button to do what it does. And what's also really cool is if you go to Power Automate over here, you can see you can actually have flows. You can trigger flows from your app on the click of a button. So you see we have all these flows we have access to. So this get user time entries KB, that triggers once you hit process time. So if I open up that flow, you can see that flow, simply what it does is it waits for a trigger from Power Apps, and then it actually executes a stored procedure in SQL. It receives this variable from Power Apps. It's something I pass in, and then we send a success response back to the app to say, hey, it ran successfully. And so that shows this kind of some of the functionality that you have between Canvas apps and Flow, which is really cool. So next, let me show you how we can integrate a Canvas app with a model-driven app. All right, so this is another Canvas app that we've created for a client, and this is all dummy data here. And this university, they needed a way for all of their graders to easily grade assignments within Canvas. By Canvas, I'm talking about Instructure, which is a different, it's an LMS system we are not associated with, but we've helped build this app for this university so they can keep track and help the grading process be smoother and keep track of how long it takes graders to grade. So this page started out blank, and I added in all these different columns and data points and buttons so that the graders can actually grade. And some of the functionality you can see, you're able to sort. You can change this little filter here. You can go to your in progress. You can see what items you have in progress. You can also see what items you've completed. Something to point out that's really cool is this little box right here is actually a Power BI report. So you can actually embed a Power BI report into your Canvas apps, which is super powerful because obviously this is a lot of data. You can see that 17,000 have been completed and there's about 1,500 ready to grade. Expecting a Canvas app to do all of that processing, to do all that counting, it adds a lot of overhead to your app. So what we did is instead, and Travis actually built this report. We built this report in Power BI, so it does all of the processing and all that function stuff, and then we just embed it and bring it in to the Canvas app, and the Canvas app doesn't have to worry about doing all that processing. It's handled elsewhere, but then the users can see exactly what's going on. So this is an app that you would build for, call it your users. But now what about the admins who need to see, okay, how many graders are using the app, what's going on with all the assignments? Like if we want a more administrative view, that's where we can use a model-driven app. So if I open up this model-driven app, you can see it looks a lot different from Canvas app. That's because I personally designed how this looks, and this is kind of the out-of-the-box the way a model-driven app looks. So model-driven app will always have over here to the left this navigation and all these tables we have access to. You can change obviously which your forms here, what tables or what columns the user can see and what they can access and edit. But for the most part, an admin app is going to look like this, or a model-driven app, excuse me. So right here, we're in a course. And so if I go back here, you can see I have my PC 101 course. So you can see I'm in here. I can click on sections. I can open up a section. And once it loads, we can see the submissions where people have submitted assignments to be graded for this section. We can see who the graders are, so who's going to actually be grading this, and we can have all these different functionalities of how we want to I guess, administrative tasks that we need to perform for related to sections or submissions. Another cool thing to point out when we're talking about embedding. So if we actually open up a course here, let's click on course map. This is where, so I showed you in the Canvas app how we embedded Power BI. Well, you can also embed a Canvas app into a model-driven app. So this whole little box right here is a Canvas app that I built. So as you can see, it looks very different from a model-driven app. And it's because the functionality that we needed was suited better for a Canvas app, but we needed it within the model-driven app. So you can actually embed Canvas apps within model-driven apps. So the amount of customizing that you can do, or it really just depends on your creativity. I've always heard that creativity loves constraints. With the Power Platform, we have all these technologies. They obviously have their limitations, but when used together, they're super powerful. I think that's why I call it Power Platform. You can do a ton of different cool things with that. So with that, Charles, I'll hand it back to you.
All right. So we've gone through, we've shown you some of the things that we've done internally. We've shown you some of the things we've done for our customers. Let's talk a little bit about the companies that are utilizing the Power Platform and how they got there. So these are just a few of the names that have built applications in the Power Platform. They've really transformed their business. A couple of good ones that I like are Coca-Cola. My wife is a Coke fanatic, so she's probably mad that I put Pepsi up here as well. But Coca-Cola, Ecolab, Pepsi, IKEA, the NFL teams, the Miami Dolphins specifically, Office Depot, PayPal, and even us at JourneyTEAM, like we've changed a lot of our processes based off the Power Apps, and we've really built a good system for us here. So let's focus on one of them. I'll show you the American Red Cross. So you can see before here on the left-hand side, this is the order form that instructors used to have to use when they were ordering supplies or anything for disaster prep or training. And so it was this really clunky process. Paper form had to be completed, it had to be scanned and then sent to multiple email boxes. They had to then take that form and send it to a local coordinator who then had to go and order the supplies. So all that just to get to the one person that would actually order the supplies. So from there was really no visibility. Like once they handed it off to that person to order the supply, they didn't know who was going to buy it. They just know it was going to some local coordinator. Now, they had an ask from leadership. They had asked, they need the data on the number of the orders that they're getting filled each month. They need to know like the usage of their supplies, and they had no data to throw back at them and say like, this is how we're actually going to prove how much we order, how long it takes. And then on the right-hand side, you can see we've got this Power Apps based order form that really looks more like an online shopping experience. It really just creates like a seamless place for them to go and do this. And again, it's all in the system, so it doesn't need to go to like a coordinator anymore. It would just be the person, the instructor that need to order it could order it directly from there. So how did they get there? So in reading this case study, it's very interesting. They had one business analyst that literally just was happening to be clicking buttons in his M365 platform, and he saw this little button for Power Apps. And he went, wow, that looks kind of cool. And so he did exactly what Colby did. He just opened up a blank app and was like, wow, like I have a lot of cool things I can do in here. So one of the main things on how to get there and how to get started is Power Apps documentation. So Microsoft has a really robust set of documentation when it comes to Power Apps. They've got how to get started as far as licensing, how to get in there and do other things, whether it's building apps, standing up environments, modifying data in the Dataverse like Colby showed you, where you can add your own custom tables, you can add your own custom logic, you can build your Power Automate flows that integrate with your apps. And so with the Red Cross, one thing that they found is that it was taking about 4 to 5 or 3 to 4 weeks to get any supplies ordered. And you can see, like when they're trying to train instructors for potential disasters or things that are coming up, 3 to 4 weeks is just a really big lead time. So they went from 3 to 4 weeks all the way down to just 1 week, 4 to 5 business days from the start of the order form to actually getting the supplies in their hands. The other thing that's provided, because all this data is now being stored in the Dataverse, we're also storing like the order times, who accessed the app and things like that. So they were able to give that visibility into the process and workload, give it back to their business owners, their management and leadership, and they were able to make better decisions. They were able to actually get insights and things from their data. It's just extremely powerful how much you can gather from this and how quickly you can get these apps into development. So one thing they did after that was, because they saw the return on investment from that one app, they were able to then go and reinvest some of their time back into creating other processes. So they're now building Power Apps for many of their business challenges outside of just like the instructor order form. Now they're doing lots of other things. They're actually integrating Power BI and gathering their data, building reports, and then being able to make big business decisions on it. So not only was this one line of business affected, it affected multiple lines of business. It removed a lot of the data silos and other silos between departments where they were taking forever to get applications created, and now they were working together as teams to create applications, and it really turned into more of like a community of sharing and a community of adoption and collaboration. So for everyone else, like, where do we go to get started? I think that's the biggest thing in getting into Power Apps and the Power Platform is it's such a massive breadth of technologies. I just need that one place to get started. So there's a couple links here and a couple things that we'll talk about. So the Power App Maker portal, that's where Colby went, where he actually went and created the app. It's just make.powerapps.com. You can sign up for a free license and you can get started creating apps. There's a lot of robust documentation that I talked about where it's on powerapps.microsoft.com. There is a massive, massive community forum in the Power Users Forum for Microsoft. I frequently am chatting with folks with other companies there. We're always trying to help each other out, providing solutions, coming up with ideas. There's a portion in there called User Voice where if you're creating an app or you're working in Power BI or building a flow to try and automate something and there's a gap, you can actually suggest to Microsoft, say, hey, here's this gap. Could you do something like this to fix it? And they listen pretty well. It may not be like the quickest thing. Like they're usually like a quarterly rollout with features or a monthly rollout with like Power BI. They're always doing like monthly updates. So they listen to their users. They really encourage getting feedback from you guys. So like as you start building apps, as you get into the Power Platform, definitely go onto the forum and try to contribute to your other peers that are creating apps. And you never know, you may be able to help somebody out just with a simple conversation with them. Another powerful thing that I have found with creating apps is YouTube. There is a massive YouTube of makers out there that you can engage with, you can chat with them, you could even get on like a live call. I've gotten on a live call with a few of the other makers and we've gone through and just tried to create some cool apps. So there's some folks in there that you'd really like to follow. One thing I'd have you start with is there is a guy called Shane Young that works for Power Apps 911, and he is an MVP in the Microsoft community, and he is very, very valuable, and he has a lot of content that can help you get started. The other thing that we've started here at JourneyTEAM is we've started a program called our Power App Sherpa program that can actually help guide you guys through the process. So not only is it just going to be us helping you, it's going to be us guiding you through the entire process. I'll hand it back to Landon just for a second so he can kind of show you how that's going to work.
Awesome. Thank you, Travis. Yes. So, if you get through YouTube and like Travis mentioned, there is a ridiculous amount of information out there on the internet, right? Whether you're looking on YouTube, whether you're looking at Microsoft documentation, but if you get to the point where you feel like you need additional help, we have helped so many different customers with the Power App platform that we've decided to start this Sherpa program of what we've coined the term Sherpa program to help kind of guide you through learning how to build those applications, kind of maybe your first app. And we have a nice guided process. It's a 5-week implementation schedule. It's pretty straightforward. There's 4 one-on-one sessions that you would get. You'd have access to our, our senior consultants, someone like Travis or Colby, people who've been on this call to just bounce ideas off of and help with those additional questions that maybe YouTube or those other, insights that you're getting on the web are not adding. We've had a ton of success with this. If you want more information or you're interested in that, then you can reach out to myself. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or any of our account managers. I know a lot of our customers are on today, so connect with your account manager if you want to learn more about that. We will be sending out a survey that you'll be getting here at the end of this call, and there's a place in there you'll be able to fill out information and request more info on the Sherpa program. So feel free to do that. But we're really excited about that program, and we're looking forward to have you guys join. Next steps, as far as where we go from here, if you guys have any questions, obviously reach out to us, call us. We're happy to help. Even if it's just, hey, I have a quick question, not necessarily looking for help. We're always happy to answer questions you guys have. We are going to do a drawing. So anyone who fills out the survey that we're going to be sending out, we will be doing a gift card drawing. I love that it just says gift card because that means I get to choose how much. So I don't know. Let's do like $100. Let's make this somewhat exciting. We'll do $100 and we'll figure out where that goes. Probably just like a Visa or an Amex gift card, so you can go wherever you want. So please fill that out. We love the feedback. We'd love to hear what we did well, any improvements we can make. We'd really appreciate that. And then other than that, if you have other questions, reach out to your account manager, or you can call us at the number there, or reach out to info@journeyteam.com. Other than that, we will be sharing out these slides in the chat function of this webinar, so feel free to use those and leverage those as you see fit. We are ending quite a bit early, so Travis, Colby, what do you think about opening up to some questions? You guys good with that?
I'd love to. Yeah.
Let's put you guys. Let's see if we can put you guys on the spot. So we've got quite a few attendees still here on the webinar. Any questions or anything that you guys saw that you want to ask the experts about? Don't be shy. Do we have some like Jeopardy music we can play?
Probably.
Just kidding. And if you have questions, you can either you can just hop in the chat and type those in if you're able to. Okay. No questions. You guys just covered everything.
Someone had a question. Where does Power Query fit in?
So Power Query you're going to be using in Power BI. So Power Query is the UI that lets you wrangle your data into your reports. And that is specifically a function of like Excel and Power BI and data gathering.
You can, however, also create, I think it's related, a data flow within Power Apps, and which is very similar to Power Query, works very similar. And you can pull in data into the Dataverse from wherever your sources are. You can always set up those to automatically refresh, so you can be populating your Dataverse data from wherever you need.
Yep, and there's a distinguishing factor between data flows. So there's a data flow for Power BI, and then there's data flows for the Power Platform. So what Colby's talking about there is a data flow for the Power Platform, where you can actually have data flow into your Dataverse tables, and it doesn't need to be like in a Power BI report or a Power BI data flow. You don't have to go set up a workspace. You just set up that data flow in your Power Platform Admin Center or just your Maker portal, and it's refreshing data into your Dataverse that you can pull in. It's pretty seamless and easy too.
Awesome. Any other questions from the group? So looks like we had a question. What do you recommend for a business just starting out using the Power Platform, Power Apps?
So for just starting out, there's a few different things you can utilize that are free. So the base license for just making Power Apps is free. And there are some free data sources that you can use because there are like paid add-ons for the Power Platform that you would need to use if you were using like Dataverse or some bigger storage mechanisms. But things like a SharePoint list. Like a few of the first apps that I built was using some of the free data sources like SharePoint, anything in like your M365 platform, whether it's like a Forms, something like that. That's where I would definitely start. Like you could start with a SharePoint list, whether it's like a simple app, like and you could even just use one of the template apps. Like inside of the Maker portal, they have a bunch of pre-built template apps that you can just say, hey, start this app for me, and then you can even go through and dig through it, and it'll show you how it built like every single screen, every single function, how it integrates with your data sources. So definitely start with the template apps in the Maker portal. All right.
You guys have a bunch of other questions in the
Nice.
Q&A section. Yeah,
I see them popping in.
there you go.
So I'll just kind of start at the top of the line here. So there's a question about needing an app to control time and help desk. So there actually is a out of the box template app that is like a ticketing system that you could try to utilize there. That's one that I've played with in the past, and it's pretty robust, and it works for the majority of like help desks, and you can tweak it to customize your own needs. Okay. There's another one about Timular and Spiceworks, but it's a pain to manage both. And we feel you there when you have multiple systems where you're trying to get in and manage things. Colby actually kind of talked about that when he was showing one of his customer apps where they've got a system called Canvas, and we are building them Canvas apps. So we had to bridge the gap between some functionality that didn't really work well in the Canvas system, and we brought it into Power Apps and kind of solved that need. You really just have to see where those two functions, those two applications, what the gaps are, and then what you would need to build that. So it's mostly just, if you're going to be using Power Apps for it, how that front end user interface is going to work and kind of bridge that gap. Do you have to have Azure in order to start using the Power Apps platform? Or can you just have Power BI? So you need to at least have the Azure AD tenant to have the authentication work. That's kind of your basis. Like if you have Power BI, you should already have that built in, unless you're just using the free out of the box one. But yeah, the Azure platform is kind of the backbone to all things M365. So that is definitely something you will need to have. Let's see, what language is Excel Online using to replace VBA to have Power Automate run Excel advanced functions? So if you have watched any of the latest like business summit or business application summit from Microsoft, they have actually coined the language that Power Apps uses, and it's very similar to Excel functions, and it's called PowerFX. So that is going to be the language that is going to kind of take over for all the functions and things inside of the Power Platform is PowerFX. So that function that Colby showed you where he was having that button do a bunch of stuff, that is PowerFX code. And it's considered declarative code. So if you've ever built a function in Excel to either sum or do something like that, it's very similar. It's almost one for one. All right.
Here's a good one, Travis. How would you go about using a third-party API to a non-Power App platform?
Ooh, very nice. So inside of the Power Platform, not only is there hundreds of out-of-the-box connectors, but you have the ability to create your own connector. So if there is an API for a data source or a platform and you need to grab data from it, it can be utilized in the Power Platform. And it's pretty simple. All you do is you get like an example of that API call, you paste it into the custom connector creation UI, and it will literally generate what it needs you to grab, whether it's like an authentication token, whether it's parameters you need to pass to that API call. We actually use that quite a bit here at JourneyTEAM, especially with like Business Central. So Business Central isn't quite integrated all the way into the Microsoft Dataverse yet. It's getting there, but we have to use the Business Central API to grab data and pull it into our Power Apps. So we've had to build custom connectors for Business Central. In the past, I've had to build custom connectors for like SAP where some of the functions didn't work, things like that. So the custom connector is going to be your best friend if you have data outside of those out-of-the-box connectors.
All right, when you do use something that you need to pay for, what does the cost structure look like? Monthly or per query, etc.?
All right, so with Power Apps specifically, and they've kind of standardized it across a lot of the Power Platform. So there is the standard licensing, and then there's premium licensing. So when you need to pay for something, you have a premium per user license, and then you have a premium per app license. So for the user, it's $10 a month, I believe, and that gives you access to all the premium connectors, which is like Dataverse, Azure SQL, things like that. And what that does is that user can then create and ingest as many apps as they need to as a premium user. Now, let's say you have like 50,000 users in your company that need to access an app. Well, you don't necessarily want to pay that much money for them to access one app. So that they also have a premium per app license. And what that is you pay for every premium per app license that you buy, you can apply that premium license to 2 apps. So it's like $40 a month instead of 10, but at the same time, you're paying $40 a month per month to utilize 2 premium apps for 50,000 people instead of paying $10 a month for 50,000 people to access the app.
All right, here's another one. What do you think about building a customer portal and connecting to Business Central?
There's a couple of use cases for that. That's actually one thing we didn't cover in this just because it's so in depth. Is there is another type of app you can create in the Power Platform called a Power App Portal, where it's a custom web portal that uses all these integrations. So you could do that. You could set up a Power Apps portal and then utilize, again, that custom connector you can build to Business Central to gather data in, push data back to Business Central. So that is an option.
And I think it should be noted on that Canvas apps and model-driven apps can only be used for internal purposes.
Yep.
So if you want anonymous access, that's when you will have to use a portal, a Power App portal, to make that happen.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because
Good.
obviously with anonymous users, you can't be buying a license for anonymous people. So that's why Microsoft's created portals. So that works for anonymous access, but anything that deals with Canvas apps or model-driven apps, users have to be licensed, and so that's only for internal users. So you wouldn't be building an Instagram type app in a Canvas app unless that Instagram was just for your employees, then you could.
Yeah, and that does apply to guest users and your tenant as well. As long as they have a valid license, a guest user can access one of your apps. And then from the portal standpoint, there is extra licensing associated with that. So you're charged like per, I think it's like 100 logins. I'll have to look at the licensing for that, but yeah, there is that capability. If you need it outside of your organization, the portal is kind of the way to go.
There was a
Very
question
nice.
above. There was one question I think we missed, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but do we have to have Azure in order to start using the Power Platform or Power Apps?
Yeah, we covered that a little bit. You do have to have it in order to have the authentication work.
Cool.
And when you stand up an M365 tenant, that comes with it.
Awesome.
Okay, looks like we got another question. And that is, can you bridge SharePoint Online, Jira, and Confluence with Power Apps?
Yeah, absolutely. SharePoint Online is actually one of the biggest integrations with Power Apps. Anything kind of in that M365 platform is going to integrate very well. And then there is a premium connector for Jira. So you could use that to, if you say you had like a Jira board that you needed to grab data in and build a custom Power App UI in front of that, you can absolutely do that. We actually do something similar. We just use DevOps instead of Jira. So like that Journey Notes app that Colby showed you, we have deep integrations with our DevOps projects, and we can manage it all within that app. We can assign tasks, we can delete tasks, all sorts of fun stuff. Keep in mind though, with SharePoint Online, you do get some of the limitations like the 5,000 item view. In Power Apps specifically, there is a 2,000 item delegation limit, which basically means If you have to have Power Apps do some of the crunching, it's only going to pull the first 2,000 records. If you're able to pass that crunching to another service like Power BI, like Colby talked about, or back to the data source itself, it could pull as many records as you have. And that's when we get into like Power App performance, and that's a whole other ballgame.
All right, everyone. I think we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate everyone hopping on. I know you guys all have things to do and are extremely busy, so appreciate you guys all hopping on with us for this hour. Everyone have a fantastic day.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
See ya.